Everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and for today's review we're going to take a look at the new Big Hero 6 4-inch action figures from Bandai Toys. Now these figures are based on the new animated feature film from Disney, and the movie opens in theaters this coming Friday, November 7th. There's 7 figures in the first wave, and they come packaged in a very standardized type card back. You've got the Disney and Big Hero 6 logo up at the top, along with an image of the two main characters from the movie, Baymax and Hiro Hamada. And then below that you have the figure displayed, and then underneath that you have a little image of the character, as well as the name and the Bandai logo, and it tells us that these figures are for ages 4 and older. And obviously this is a line much more geared towards younger kids than adult collectors, though if you're a fan of the series, which this is actually based on a Marvel comic book, then I think you'll probably enjoy these figures as well. The back of the packaging is basically identical for all 7 figures. You've got, again, the Disney and Big Hero 6 logo up at the top. Then you have images of 6 of the characters that are released in this first wave. You'll notice that it is a multilingual card back. And then underneath that is images of the figures, all 7 figures in the first wave. Okay, so let's get these figures open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside of the packaging. Now, for the intent and purposes of this video review, I'm going to primarily focus on the two main characters, the Baymax and the Hamada figure. We'll look at all 7 briefly, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to focus primarily on these two. Overall construction, design, and articulation is pretty similar for most of the figures, and I'll point out the minor differences briefly. But Baymax is the tallest figure in the first wave, and he stands at about 4.5 inches tall. And then Hiro, or Hiro, however you pronounce it, he stands about 3.5 inches tall. Each figure, for the most part, comes with some kind of accessory or figure. Some come with more than one. But for Baymax, he comes with a pair of wings, which actually you have to attach to the figure when you first open it. You just pop them on, and you can rotate them up and down, and so you can have them so they're deployed for flight mode, or you can have them behind his back so you can't really see him, which is kind of cool. This figure is probably one of the more limited in articulation. I mean, none of them are like super articulated, but Baymax is a little more limited than the others. He can turn his head, has no up or down movement. His arms are attached at the shoulder with ball hinge joints, but these shoulder pads do limit some of the movement. He's got pretty good rotation, but it does prevent him from getting his arms straight out a little bit. No bicep swivel on this one. Single hinged elbow, so you can only bend his arm about that much at the elbow. And then he does have some swivel articulation at the glove cuff or wrist, whatever you want to call it. No midsection articulation on him. And then he's only got some minor movement on the legs. Basically, the legs are kind of just held together with a ball joint. But the ball joint is sticking outward as opposed to down like you normally have, so it really doesn't have much movement in the legs, and he has no knee articulation or wrist or ankle articulation. And the other thing to note is he does have very small feet, so he does have a tendency to sometimes fall over. Okay, so the Hamada figure has a bit more articulation than Baymax. He also comes with an accessory. He comes with this, I think it's like a compact Baymax, but it's basically just a hollowed out piece of plastic, but it looks like it's on wheels. It's supposed to be on wheels, though the wheels don't roll or anything. Again, it's just a hollowed piece of plastic. I haven't actually seen the movie, so I'm not that familiar with the characters, and I haven't read the comic book either, so but I believe that's supposed to be like a compact Baymax. And for articulation on this figure, his head, again, just basically looks left and right, really no up or down movement on these. Ball hinge joints with the shoulders, but again, with the way the construction with the shoulder pads, it kind of limits how far out he can get his arm. Single hinged elbow, but he can bend his elbow fairly decently. And then he does also have a swivel at the elbow, but no wrist articulation. This one has no midsection articulation. Legs are on hinges, so he can do the splits good, and he can get his leg forward pretty good and back pretty good. So he's got good movement there. Single hinged knee, so he can only bend his knee about that much, and then there's no wrist or no ankle articulation on these. And he also has a swivel at basically at the bottom of the knee. The figure's construction, they're pretty much made with a kind of rubbery type plastic, so there is some definite flexibility with these. And the paint apps, there's not much in the way of washworks or anything, but they use pretty vibrant colors, not a lot of paint errors or anything. Here's a look at the Fred figure, which is a pretty unique and kind of cool looking figure. Again, I don't know much about these characters, so I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a bad guy. It looks like a bad guy to me, but then again, with the name Fred, it doesn't sound that menacing. But he's got 3 eyes and a mouth, and the picture on the packaging, it shows him breathing fire. There's no feature for fire breathing on this figure, but I guess that's one of the things he does. And he's got some cool fins on the side, pretty good articulation. He's definitely can get his arms out all the way, and he can bend his at the elbow pretty good. No wrist articulation, no midsection articulation, but like he can do the splits, and he even has some knee, even though he's got pretty short legs, he's even got some knee articulation. So I like the articulation, and then he's also got some spikes that stick out on the back. And he's got a tail which actually comes detached, and you got to put it on. It's just you just stick it on the little peg there, and you can turn it. If you have it pointing downwards, it does kind of, because the tail actually goes out longer than his feet, so he ends up having to stand at almost like a lurching forward position, but you can turn the tail to the side or even have it sticking upwards so that he can stand straight up. This is one of the cooler figures in the wave, I think. Just the way it looks and everything. And he stands at about 4 inches exactly. So here's a look at the Yokai figure. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I'm pretty sure that this is the bad guy, or at least the main bad guy. He's got some nice, he kind of looks like a wrestler to me, but he's got like a trench coat, which you can actually remove, though the sleeves aren't removable, so he looks kind of funny if you take off the coat, but you can't. It's a soft vinyl material, so you can't actually take that off if you wanted to. And then he comes with this accessory. I guess it strikes me almost as like something you'd see Venom using, like where he stretches himself out or something. It almost looks like it's digitized. Again, I don't know what his power is or whatever, but it almost looks like kind of a digitized Venom effect, and it just kind of sticks over his hand, and you kind of have to push it and wedge the fist in there to really get it in there, and you can kind of do it on both hands, though I found it fits better on his left hand than his right. And his articulation, again, is pretty good for this type of figure. He's got ball joints at the shoulders, good rotation, single hinged elbow, but he can bend his elbow pretty good. He has no wrist articulation, but he can swivel at the elbow. No midsection articulation, but he can do the splits good, and he can get his legs out good. He's got a single hinged knee, but again, he's got pretty good bending at the knee. And then he's got swivel at the knee as well, but no ankle articulation. And then these figures do have peg holes on the bottom of their feet. Help notice some similarities, but to another Disney property, the new Inquisitor figure, definitely strikes me as some similarities there, at least with the head and the red striping and everything. One thing I do want to note, poking a little fun at Hasbro, obviously Hasbro's Rebels figures are also geared for kids, but I've got to applaud Bandai for giving these figures, again, they're not super articulated, but they at least have basic articulation, ball joints at the shoulders, elbow joints, knee joints for the most part, as opposed to some other figures geared for kids, which really don't have that kind of articulation. This line, we also get some female characters. Here's a look at the Honey Lemon figure, and her figure is probably the least articulated of the bunch. I guess because she's got thinner arms and legs, they didn't give her much articulation, but she has no elbow articulation, no knee articulation, so very, very minor articulation on this figure. She can turn her head left and right. She can get her arm out, and she's got rotation at the arm, but no midsection articulation either. So not a whole lot you can do with this figure, and she's kind of got one arm is bent. She comes with this purse looking thing with a teddy bear on it, which you can string over her shoulders. Again, I'm not familiar with the characters. I'm not sure what the point of or purpose of the purse is, but they've kind of sculpted the arm to kind of like hold the purse. And then she comes with this one other accessory, which honestly I have no idea what it's really supposed to be. There's no indication on the packaging or anything of what it is. The best guess I could come up with is, because this figure doesn't stand very well, is you can stick her foot in there like that, and it does kind of make for a figure stand. I really don't know if that's what its actual purpose is supposed to be, but it was the only thing I could come up with. So there you go. Finally, we'll take quick looks at the final two figures in the first wave. Wasabi no Ginger, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and then Go-Go Tamago. Again, I'm not 100% on the pronunciations of these names, but I believe that's how you say it. But these figures, again, pretty much the same kind of basic articulation. For accessories, Wasabi comes with these look like energy blades, and they are removable. They just kind of click on little pegs. And then he also has like a trench coat. Now his coat is sleeveless, so you can actually remove it, and it actually looks fairly decent without his coat. So, and again, it's just a flexible material. And then for Go-Go, she comes with these discs that she wears on her wrists and her ankles, and they are removable. They're just with clips. The bigger discs appear to fit on her feet or on her ankles, and then she has the smaller ones that go on her wrists. Okay, so that's my review. Overall, I think this is a pretty fun and cool looking action figure line. Obviously, it's geared more towards younger kids, and the price point on these is about $9 each, which isn't bad. You're getting pretty decent articulation for this type of line, certainly better than other kids' lines that we've seen recently. And you're getting accessories with pretty much all the figures. So, I think Bandai's done a pretty good job with this. These figures are hitting shelves now at places like Walmart, and I think you can also get them at Target and Toys R Us as well. And the movie, as I mentioned before, opens up this week on Friday, November 7th, so that definitely looks like a movie worth checking out as well. So that's my review. Please leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and until next time, I'll catch you later.